whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show, live on YouTube, starting at noon Pacific. Big show coming up because it's going to be a big week. Obviously, the news everybody knows about. Trump has arrived in New York for his arraignment tomorrow. This, of course, all because of that alleged hush money paid to Stormy Daniels and campaign finance violations. Blah, blah, blah. We know it. We know the details. I think what we're really looking to see is what is going to be the reaction of the public. We don't even know if we're going to get any details, if there's going to be a gag order on this or anything. But I think most of the eyes are more going to be on the outside of the courtroom. It boggles my mind. And we'll get into this in a few minutes. But it just boggles my mind how we are literally seeing the cult continue for the former president. It's something I have never seen in my lifetime. And I know I'm not that old, but these people love that man more than anything else. And I don't get why. I was watching someone that was making such a great point about how if he's so rich and so powerful, why is he begging people for money? Why does he even have any sort of text messages going out to people if he's so damn rich? He's a grifter. And it drives me nuts that people are so, they just bow at his feet. And I don't get why. I hope he gets his comeuppance. You know, I really don't know what the punishment truly can be given what the crime and what the charges may be about. Because again, it's 30 plus charges that are coming. And then of course, honestly, what I'm really looking for isn't even in this case. I think he's going to face even more serious charges regarding those classified documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago. That's all coming up. I mean, you hope that the walls are closing in on the man because obviously he has been this type of criminal. I'll just say it. For a while, he has been accused of so many things and nothing is stuck. We'll see if something gets stuck this time. Also coming up, we'll take it home to our home state of California. I'll tell you why California, and especially Governor Newsom, very disappointed in the numbers of in-state students that are going to UCs. We'll kind of get into this whole idea of going from community college to a UC or CSU. And God, honestly, and I say this so many times, when they make it more complicated, it seems like they don't want you to do it. And that whole pathway from community college into a UC or CSU can be more complicated than I think it needs to, and that a lot of people think it needs to. There's a certain segment of the population that carries most of the student loan debt. And kind of along these lines, when we talk about colleges and everything, I'm going to talk about this one college consultant who is paid $1,500 an hour to get students into the Ivy League. Is he the problem? Are parents the problem? Is the Ivy League the problem? Is the admission system the problem? And I'll share with you a story that I was having with my son yesterday regarding going to high school and the cost of a private high school education. In the second part of the show, we're going to go out to Florida. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who really doesn't do a lot of things quietly, has done something very quietly. He has quietly signed a permitless concealed carry bill into law. We'll get into the details, but basically, you want a concealed carry permit? You don't need training. You don't need any of that. You can have a concealed carry. I mean, what could possibly go wrong in this day and age by allowing that to happen? But again, it's Florida, so what do you expect? And then in Tennessee, they tried to ban drag shows and they failed. So I'll have an update on that. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to squeeze in as well. Thank you to our de facto producer, Calvin, who sends in tons of stories all the time. Also, California Fireman on Twitter, I think, also sent me this story. Inflatable homes. Inflatable homes. It's weird to use the word inflatable with the word concrete, but that's exactly what we're talking about. And why are we not utilizing different types of technology to get people housed? And then I'll also share a story that happened yesterday at a store in which I bought this shirt. So I'm wearing this shirt today to tell this story. That'll come up towards the end of the show. And a lesson I had to teach my children, and that one child also learned about paying for things. Or not paying for things when it's not your money. All right, but before we get to all of that, we got to get the business out of the way. This show is completely crowd funded, and we're really trying to elevate our exposure on YouTube. And one of the best ways to do that, of course, is to click that thumbs up button. Just click it. It's right below. Just once, people, just once. Click it. We absolutely love it. The super chat is live. Thank you so much for everybody that donates during the show. If you look for the $sign, and you can do this even if you're listening on replay, you can throw some money our way. And I do want to thank, who was it? It was Harry. Thank you, Harry. Here's to a Monday Medoro Mule and a Kimikaze. Ooh, do we have a new drink? I like the Kimikaze. That sounds delicious, actually. Thank you, Harry, for the $20 super chat donation and that comment. Happy Monday to all of you as well. But again, if you'd like to, again, crowdfunded. Steve Moskowitz was our founding sponsor, and we thank him so much for that. But right now, we are depending on all of you who watch the show, listen to the show, because again, we're also in podcast form. If you don't want to hop on YouTube, or it just doesn't work with your schedule and where you are during this time, or anytime, we are on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes. We're on all the podcasting, so you can also find us there. Thank you, Wes, also for the $5 super sticker. You guys are great. Honestly, this is what it's going to take to keep the show going as it is right now. And then if you can, and I'll definitely give I have my email address box open. I've been trying to do this as well during the show. If you want to become a Medorable and become a monthly Patreon subscriber, please, please do. Some of you hear this message and hop online and either become a first-time Patreon member or you bump up your monthly donation. And that is just... it's consistent, right? So we know at least around about how much we're going to get every month. And it's what we need to keep it going, because this is my job. And I love doing it. I love being here with you guys. Absolutely love it so very much. And you guys are great. Oh, Wes, another $5 super sticker. You're so generous today. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys so very much. And then finally, the merchandise. We have blankets, we have tumblers, we have t-shirts and tote bags and all kinds of stuff. So go to the NikkiMedoroShop.com, the NikkiMedoroShop.com. And that's another way to help support the show. All right. Let's get into Trumpy Boy. All right. So he arrived like this morning. I want to say maybe it was an hour or two ago. He landed in New York. His arraignment is tomorrow. Programming note, and it's just the way that this whole thing fell. I'll be a little late tomorrow. Kim should be here. My daughter has her infusion, and while it is huge news, and I'm not trying to minimize the news, my kid comes first. So she's having an infusion for her Crohn's. I have to be there, but hopefully I will be back in time. I should be back in time for the second part of the show. So Kim will be here. We'll definitely be touching on it. But again, I'm really going to be focusing on, because we know, I mean, we've been talking about the arraignment for almost 2 weeks now, when it was announced that he was indicted. And so now I just want to see what the reaction truly is tomorrow. Are we going to get a mugshot? Who wants a mugshot? I feel like on one hand, Trump wants the mugshot, right? He wants to have that to plaster, to text people for money, even though he should not need any. Anybody want it? Let me know in the comments. You guys want to see a mugshot? I mean, part of me wants to really, really see it. But the other part of me is just like, oh, he's just going to add it to his coffers to raise freaking money. It's insane. But yeah. So tomorrow we'll also see if there's going to be a gag order. How much information is going to come out. Bill Barr, former attorney general for former President Trump, he was given some interviews. And he was talking about whether it would be a good idea or a bad idea for Trump to testify in his own trial. I don't think that Trump could help himself. But honestly, he has sat through so many depositions because people have been suing his ass for forever. So I'm really curious. These are all questions that we'll have to see. So I want to play you a little bit of Bill Barr's interview. Here we go. And this is what he had to say.
Do you know his critics, though, say that, okay, every American should be subjected to rule and order and justice. And this president, well, according to the New York Times editorial board, not surprisingly, they think he flirted with that. They say Donald Trump spent years as a candidate in office and out of office, ignoring democratic and legal norms and precedents, trying to bend the Justice Department and the judiciary to his whims and behaving as if rules didn't apply to him. And as the news of the indictment shows, they do. Okay, Piece in the Atlantic back in 2021 talked about your time at the DOJ and said that you were widely seen as a Trump lackey who politicized the Justice Department. So did you ever feel pressure to bend the law or to ignore it? And what do you make of, the president's critics saying this is all just catching up with him now?
Well, as I've said repeatedly, he never directly pressured me to do anything in a criminal case. Now he's out there tweeting all the time, which made my life difficult. And he was calling for people's scalps. And, from what he said after I left, he was mad at me for not delivering scalps. But the idea that I was a toady was something fostered by the mainstream media. And which of his enemies were prosecuted? Who did I, use the criminal justice process against? And there's usually crickets because there's not a case of that. But the other thing about this is I think the case, based again on what's being reported, the case lacks any legal basis. It's pursuing somebody there's nothing inherently wrong or illegal about making a hush payment. They're saying he falsified the corporate record, but for that to even be a misdemeanor, you have to be trying to defraud somebody, and it's unclear exactly who's defrauded. This is his own company. And then finally, and most importantly, from the federal standpoint, the idea that this was a campaign finance violation is simply wrong. It's wrong on the law.
So he is facing other cases. We've got special counsel investigating the Mar-a-Lago, the documents, January 6th lead up. As somebody who headed up the DOJ, are you confident they can be neutral? They will be in this case.
I hope they will be, and as I've said repeatedly, I think the document case is the most serious case. I don't think they went after those documents to get Trump. I think they actually wanted the documents back. And what's at issue in that case is not the taking of the documents; it's what he did after the government sought them and subpoenaed them, and whether there was any obstruction.
Bill, come on.
And I think that's the most serious one out there. And the other one, I think the January 6th one, is a difficult case to make. And it also runs into First Amendment issues, where you're going to draw the line between legitimate First Amendment activity, protesting an election, and actually conspiring to undo an election. So that's a difficult case to make. But
it's not that difficult, Bill. And stop freaking defending the guy. He has thrown him under the bus numerous times. And yet there's Bill Barr still sucking at the tea to Trump. I just don't get it. Yeah, John, Barr is two-faced. On an earlier interview, he said it was unthinkable that Trump should be prosecuted. And it's going to be interesting to see what Trump's lawyer does in court. It is fine and dandy for people to spew whatever nonsense they want to in front of a microphone in the media. You get into a court of law, your license can be on the line. So it's very important that they tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, including Trump. Now, as far as the gag order, somebody was asking, would Trump follow it? I mean, he's going to get himself in trouble if he doesn't, of course. Look, I just wish, and this is my honest to God truth. If there's nothing there that's going to put him away for a long time, then there's nothing there that's going to put him away for a long time. But if the average Tom, Dick, and Harry could be indicted and arraigned on what he did or is alleged to have done, then so should he. And I disagree with my friend John Rothman, who was on with us last Friday. And if you missed any of it, we have it up on our YouTube page. But John Rothman was saying that he doesn't think that he should face prison time because of the country. And I disagree. Now, I understand that thinking. But what are we saying to the people in the highest positions of power in this country if they do not face something like prison time? Now, it's been said before, politicians, former politicians, many of them, sadly, have been indicted, arrested, and put to prison. It's not new, but a president? This question of, is a president different? No. If anything, they should be held to the highest standard we have. I mean, you are the president of the United States. If there is anybody that should follow every single rule of law, it is you. And if you fail, you, not that you should want to go to prison, but you should understand why you're there. Because the whole point is for you to follow the laws of this country, not just the ones that serve you. So yeah, if found guilty, they should throw his butt in jail. That's it. But if not, if the evidence isn't there, I am saying this truthfully, fine. But you go through that process. You get fingerprinted and mugshotted. And I know somebody mentioned that they don't have to release the mugshot in New York. I think it's actually up to Trump and his lawyer. And that's why I was kind of asking. I should have added that caveat. So do you think that Trump wants his mugshot released? You think he'll smile? That's a good question. If you were getting your mugshot done, do you smile or do you not smile? If you think you're innocent, do you smile or do you not smile? I've never been arrested, fingerprinted, or had a mugshot done. I don't know if anybody in the comments wants to admit that, but is it better to smile or not smile? And in Trump's case, is it better for him to smile or not smile? I can see him doing his little smirk that he loves to do all the time. I never know if it's a good idea. I'm going to default to don't smile, right? Just kind of passport picture it. You know, they don't want you to smile, which is so hard for me to do. I don't feel like I look like myself if I'm not smiling in a picture just because of my eating grin that I have on all of the time. But yeah, I think that I think he might smirk, but I don't know if we're going to see it. John writes in the comments, I disagree with Rothman too. Trump needs to go to jail to prove nobody is above the law, both former and future presidents. Wes says the hilarious thing is everyone is choosing sides before the accusations are even public. True. Although I think in this case, the whole hush money and the arrest and conviction of Michael Cohen kind of lends people, right, to figure out what they think. But you're right, Wes. I mean, we really should default to let's let the evidence play out. But I mean, we have been following every in and out of Trump. It's crazy. How many cops are going to do Trump mugshot selfies? That's funny. Nick says, not that funny, really. Choose the side of truth or choose the side of Trump. I mean, he is a liar. I don't think that it's a stretch. It's not a lie to say that he lies, but everybody, I think, being truthful lies. It's just the fact that you're the president or former president of the United States, and the amount in which you have lied is insane. Karen thinks he'll have a smug snarl on his face. Square says a mugshot is worth 1,000 words. Absolutely. Oh, here we go. John says, if I was arrested for protesting a worthy cause, I would smile. I like that answer. I agree. If I was defending something I believed in, hell yeah, I'd smile. Right? Absolutely. There is no such fact in this. This is a lie. It's a witch hunt, John. Nikki, I know about that malicious behavior and indecent exposure incident you got nabbed at Chico for. Nah, I wasn't in Chico long enough to get nabbed for anything. Trump never smiles anyway. No, hold on. I mean, I don't think he's smiling here. He always had that stupid smirk, though. He's not smiling here. That's true. He's not smiling there. But there have been smirky smirks. There definitely have. Karen says, other countries are watching us. We need to show that no one is above the law by having him go to prison if guilty. True. Otherwise, we are no better than 2-bit dictatorships. Very true. Will Trump have his hair and makeup at his mugshot? He will if he's at the arraignment and they take him right then and there. Yeah, Ricky, you're so correct. We'll talk about this nearing the end in about a year or so. I'm patient. The timing of this is insane about when he could be found guilty or not guilty. If he is found not guilty, this is the gamble. If he's found not guilty, oh my God, it'll be insane. The amount of just reaction from him and the Trump supporters. So I'm really hoping whatever it is going to stick. Ooh, Karen wants the mugshot on the cover of Time magazine. John says, if I got arrested for being drunk and disorderly on spring break in Fort Lauderdale, I'd probably smile. Let's ask Kim McAllister, and welcome Kim McAllister to the show. So Kim, hi, if you were arrested, would you smile or not smile in your mugshot?
What have I done?
That's a good question. Okay, so I think it was John had said if it was something worthy, like I was defending something, I was protecting the environment or children or something, I would. But what if you just think you're innocent? I mean, maybe it's nothing, like you've been arrested for something that's not that good, but you're innocent, damn it. Do you smile?
In the mugshot, huh? You know it's going to be circulated everywhere. Okay. So you don't want a bad one.
Getting arrested, plastered all over the newspaper.
But you also, like, if you've been accused of murder or like hurting someone,
right,
or like killing someone with your car in a DUI, like if you've done something where someone else has been injured or dead, you don't want to come off as like someone who doesn't care.
Right.
So it depends on what I've done. I think most of the time I'll probably smile, but if I've hurt someone, I'm not smiling.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even look like myself if I don't smile in a picture. So right. I feel like that also would play into it. Like, Jesus, she looks awful.
You could give the Melania evil eye, like just this.
I am no Melania model Trump. Like she can smize, which is smile with the eyes or do some sort of crap like that. Yeah, I don't know. But I do think that there's going to be some sort of consequence. There has to be for Trump. I mean, who was it? John said, Trump has 4 independent criminal actions. Odds are he's going to be convicted for at least one of them. And if he's convicted of a felony, that's it. He can't run for president anymore. So it's the timing again of all of this. They got to hurry the hell up. And I don't even mean like finding him guilty. Just get these cases going. And something like this, what he's being arraigned for tomorrow, like we just said, it could take a year or more. And it's really going to play into the next presidential election. Now, there is a poll. This poll was by CNN. CNN found 60% of Americans approve of the indictment of former President Trump, but a plurality also believes politics played at least some role. 62% of independents approve of the decision to indict Trump. 94% of Democrats approve of it. 79% of Republicans, no surprise, disapprove of the decision to indict. A Quinnipiac poll conducted before news of the indictment found most Americans think the accusations are very serious at 32% or somewhat serious. In the same poll, 62% of Americans thought the indictment was mainly motivated by politics. I mean, it's kind of hard to separate the politics from former President Trump. I mean, he's a former president and he's such a divisive figure. And what he's being indicted for in this case has to do with campaign funds when he was running for president. So you can't separate the politics from this case. It's all politics. The allegation is he paid off the hush money because he didn't want this coming out right before Election Day. No, there was a motivation there, right? There was a motivation to keep it quiet. And they always say the cover up is oftentimes worse than the crime.
So it turns out that it's not paying hush money to someone is not illegal.
No, it's not. It's how it's a documenting of how that money came.
It's the way you account for it and try to cover it up.
That's
the problem, right?
Yes. The cover up again. He didn't want it to come out that he was paying off Stormy Daniels. And it's embarrassing, especially in light of the grab him by the pee and everything like that. Like, you understand the motivation. But again, hiding it, trying to write it off as legal fees or something like that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Now, what should the appropriate punishment be? I wish it was a felony. I believe it's just a misdemeanor. I'm correct. I think I'm correct in that what he's facing is a misdemeanor for this. But still enough to bring him in and have an arraignment. But I'll double check on the severity of it. It's just, it's so sad. Now, do you think that in light of all of this, he should drop out of the race? Because there's some people saying, yes, he should definitely drop out of the race, that it is, it's bad for the GOP. It's going to definitely split possibly the vote. Like, if he's still facing charges, but there's no final decision, is this person going to draw votes away at a time when either President Biden or possibly Kamala Harris could get those votes? Now, I don't think that Trump is going to ever, in the history of ever, drop out of the race. But somebody has joined in the race.
He joined the race specifically to help him get out of legal troubles.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, it keeps it being a political witch hunt when you do it this way. I want to play you some sound, though, of this guy who I think John Rothman had mentioned as someone, and it's technically not official yet, but it is official because he's doing this interview with Jonathan Karl. But Asa Hutchinson has announced that he's running. Here's a little bit of that interview.
You said you were thinking about running for president. Have you made a decision? Are you running?
I have made a decision, and my decision is I'm going to run for president of the United States. While the formal announcement will be later in April in Bentonville, I wanted to make clear that to you, Jonathan, I am going to be running. And the reason, as I've traveled the country for 6 months, I hear people talk about the leadership of our country, and I'm convinced that people want leaders that appeal to the best of America and not simply appeal to our worst instincts. And that inspires me when I see everyday Americans just saying, give us good leadership, give us common sense, consistent conservatism, and optimism about our great country. And that inspires me, and I believe I can be that kind of leader for the people of America.
Now, you've got a lot of experience. You've been a prosecutor, you've been a member of Congress, you've been a governor, you've been the director of the DEA. But most people outside Arkansas don't know who you are. How do you break through?
Well, a lot of hard work and good messaging, but I've spent some time in Iowa, and I love the response that I get there. And so it's still about retail politics in many of these states. And also, this is one of the most unpredictable political environments that I've seen in my lifetime. And so my message of experience, of consistent conservatism, of hope for our future, and solving problems that face Americans, I think that resonates. And whenever I make the final announcement, I'll be everywhere. And I think it's a plan that can work in this environment.
And how does the indictment of Donald Trump by the Manhattan DA change this race?
Well, that adds to the unpredictability of it. And I think it's a sad day for America that we have a former president that's indicted. And so it's a great distraction. But at the same time, we can't set aside what our Constitution requires, which is electing a new leader for our country, just because we have this side controversy and criminal charges that are pending. And the American people are going to have to separate what the ideas are for our future, going to talk about border security and the economy. We have to talk about those. We have to talk about the leadership of America in the world whenever you have Russia and China taking advantage of any weakness that America shows. So we can't be sidetracked for a year and a half.
All right. So that's Asa Hutchinson. And again,
he reminds me of Mr. Rogers, his voice. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, he's a conservative. He signed several abortion restrictions into law, although the measure that went into effect when Roe v. Wade was struck down, he regretted that it didn't include an exception for rape or incest, as if that's the worst thing that it does. He did veto legislation banning gender-affirming medical care for children, which Okay. But it's not a full thing. He signed other restrictions on transgender youth into law, so it's not as if he gets a pass there. But he's a conservative. He's a Republican. I'm not going to knock him for having these conservative ideals. What I am going to say is he at least is can I go as far as saying a breath of fresh air from the nonsense from former President Trump and just this bombastic, crazy, right-wing, offensive, MTG, Boebert, DeSantis type of way of addressing things? Do I feel like, okay, we can disagree on the issues with this man, but he's not going to go full-on racist, white supremacist on me? Possibly. But again, I don't know enough about Asa Hutchinson to know it, but I don't know. I'm just looking for somebody with a little bit of brain, a little bit of decorum, a little bit of wanting to be a good symbol of what America stands for, even if we disagree on certain issues. Nick says he's just does a better job of hiding his crazy. I hear ya. But look, people, I mean, the hard part is I'm about to say something and then I think about all of the issues in which Republicans have taken a certain stance. And that's nuts to me. I mean, when we're talking about protecting LGBTQ rights, when we're talking about protecting reproductive rights, I don't care if, we need balance in this country. If you're trying to take away these rights, you're wrong. And so it's hard for me not to kind of agree with Nick there. But at the same time, we do need a checks and balances. And we also need to realize that just as the LGBTQ community needs representation in Washington, so do the people that don't agree, which I'm putting in quotes, with issues that we stand for. And so we have to understand that we live in a very gigantic country with different viewpoints, and we are going to have people in Washington, D.C. that reflect those viewpoints. I just want somebody that can have respectful conversations and debates and not pull kind of these Trump cards where they just say the most outlandish thing.
Right.
And it doesn't help move the country forward. So that's Asa Hutchinson. I do not think former President Trump is ever going to drop out of the race unless he's literally in handcuffs or convicted, obviously, of something. So yeah, exactly, Ricky. Integrity is needed. So tomorrow, again, Trump will be formally arraigned. And programming note, I will be late to the show because my daughter has her infusion, but I hope to be here. I'm just going to be paying attention. And Kim, I think you should as well. What is going to be happening outside the courtroom is just as important as what's going to be happening inside of it.
Bedlam. It's going to be bedlam.
Well, I mean, I'm really hoping they keep it under control. I'm hoping it's not anything resembling a January 6th, perhaps. I really think that we're better prepared. So hopefully it won't go too bad, but that's where I'm going to be keeping my eyes because we know what's going to happen. Either we're going to get a lot of information or we're going to get a big fat nothing, right? We're going to find out what's in the indictment or we're not. We're going to get the mugshot or we're not. But other than that, the reaction is what we're going to be paying attention to. All right, click that thumbs up button before we go to Kim's news. When we come back, we're going to switch gears a bit. And we'll start talking about college. There is a certain segment of the population that carries most of the student loan debt, and there's repercussions for that. And then California is extremely disappointed in the numbers it's seeing with in-state UC students. And I was kind of doing a little digging deep about the whole free community college thing because I thought that would bump up those numbers, and that's unfortunately not the case, at least not so far since the pandemic. So we'll talk all about that after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And we will begin with Jill Biden because the First Lady's plane has been diverted back to Denver due to an aircraft issue. She was on her way to Michigan to promote her husband's Investing in America initiative. Her press secretary and everyone is safe. The plane has landed back on the ground in Denver. They added that the First Lady's trip to Michigan is now being postponed to a later date. Speaking of air travel today, former President Trump, there he is on the Trump plane headed to New York City to be arraigned for alleged hush money payments and how those were dealt with to conceal an alleged affair. The president accused of sending the hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels. He's expected to be arraigned in New York City tomorrow afternoon. There is concern that bacteria linked to tainted eye drops imported from India could gain a foothold in American healthcare facilities. The CDC says this bacteria is highly drug resistant. The FDA issuing a recall earlier this year for Ezricare, Ezricare, artificial tears after 3 people died, 8 were blinded, and dozens developed very serious infections. Drinking tap water contaminated with lithium while pregnant could be linked to an increased risk of autism in newborns. There's a study from UCLA. They looked at Denmark's civil data on pregnancy and psychiatric disorders. For the water with the 25% lithium levels, the risk, they say, is 46% higher than comparison to the lowest quartile. So that could be significant. A teenager's body is being exhumed after renewed interest in the Alex Murdaugh trial. Investigators found Stephen Smith, pictured here, on a rural road near the Murdaugh property known as Moselle. That was in 2015, and it was initially ruled as a hit and run. Now, a homicide investigation is being reopened. An attorney for Smith's mother confirmed the teen's body was re-examined and laid to its final resting place this last weekend. In a GoFundMe page, the mother asks for a new, unbiased look at the case. The state has already said that they've received tips that the older Murdaugh son, Buster, may be connected. So the investigation there continues. This is kind of a sad little story about plants. Scientists say plants make noise when they're being hurt or distressed. Researchers at Israel's Tel Aviv University said thirsty or stressed plants emit popping sounds that are undetectable to the human ear. Scientists found plants that are not stressed typically emitted less than 1 sound per hour. Plants that were dehydrated or injured produce dozens of sounds every hour. And apparently when tomatoes are cut, they scream.
Oh, come on, people. Now we can't
Nikki,
even eat plants.
Scream.
We can't even eat plants now. I'm
Nope.
sure there's tons of screaming that's happened in my house over the years because I'm the worst person ever with plants. Although I'm very proud of myself. Since we moved into this new house, I have a, like the right above my kitchen sink, I kind of have that little window where you can put plants. And so I have tulips that my best friend got me as a housewarming gift. And they're starting to bloom and they're coming out of the soil. And I have this spider plant that was with me at my old house that my mother-in-law gave me. And I've been remembering to water that one too. I think again, I have the worst, and it's my fault. I just forget to water things. It's literally that simple. I am the worst. My mother is a master gardener, literally. She's a master gardener. She got her degree. And she always is giving, would you like this plant? I'm like, do you hate this plant? Why are you giving it to me? You keep it, love it, and then I'll just come look at it when I come over to visit. But
tell her if she gives you the plant, it will be making popping sounds at your house.
Well, I'm trying to stop the popping, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm quite proud of myself.
Plants. Oh no. This show is crowdfunded, and we thank those of you already in the Nikki Medoro Show community. You can find the Patreon and the PayPal link at thenikkimedoroshow.com. And of course, the Super Chat is open and it is live. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right. Let me actually, since you mentioned the Patreon and everything, I want to say thank you to, hold on, let me get it up because I want to get the name right. Scott R has become the latest Medorable joining the show. So thank you so much, Scott. He's become a Patreon subscriber. And let's give some shout outs to the Super Chat and the Super Live. It started with Harry with a $20 donation. Wes gave a couple $5 super stickers. Thank you. Scott Rittenberg. Oh, I think you're right. The mugshot will be used for his fundraising, but why can't we, the people, use his mugshot for number 45 official POTUS portrait in the White House? That would be awesome. That would absolutely be awesome. And then Think Forward with a $20 quick in and out at work. Let's keep the show alive, y'all. Thank you, Think Forward, for the $20. You guys are awesome. And again, the Nikki Medoro Show is where you go to become a Medorable, as I like to call you. Okay, well, let's talk about, since we're talking about money, women. It never fails. According to research published in 2021, by the American Association of University Women. Women with bachelor's degrees graduate with an average of $2,700 more in student loan debt than their male peers. And of course, that may not seem like a lot, but we know what happens with student loans. The interest compounds and compounds and compounds, and it leaves them further and further in the hole.
Yeah.
You know, then you can also add in, obviously, the pay gap, right? How long it takes. And for people that just don't agree with the pay gap, you have to understand that the pay gap goes far beyond just what you take home in your paycheck. It's what's contributed to Social Security. It's all of these things that, you know, that grow over time. And so when you're looking at women carrying more of this debt, that sucks. Now, why do women have more debt than men? Well, women and women of color particularly are paid less than similarly educated men for the same jobs. So they're more likely to return to school, which means get more student loan debt, to bump up their resumes and earn a salary that would support all their expenses, although the men wouldn't necessarily have to do that. Okay, some more statistics. Women who graduate with a bachelor's degree earn about $35,000 on average. That's about 81% of what their male peers make. A year after college, women hold more than $31,000 in student loan debt. That's about $307 a month in a student loan payment. Yet, the average woman a year out of college spends more than $1,300 on housing and car payments, another $500 or so on childcare. I mean, that's different, right? Black women ages 25 to 64 who hold a bachelor's degree or higher work full-time with a median salary of about $61,000. Men in the same category, educated white men, for a similar job. Remember, it was like 61 for Black women, almost $92,000. And for Black men, it was $75,000. So, I mean, these things matter. And when you talk about, you know, oh, everyone's on an equal footing, just go to college. Just go to college and you're going to be set. It's even if you get to go to college, even if you can get the loans, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be making the same money as your peers. And then, of course, there's a whole process of getting into college. There was a meeting with Assembly member Kevin McCarthy, not the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy. And they were extremely frustrated last week during their meeting while looking at the numbers of in-state students, Californians, going to UCs. So they spent $51.5 million last summer to enroll about 4,700 more full-time college students in the 23-24 school year. So that's up from about 196,000 in the 21-22 school year. 30 million went to UC Berkeley, UCLA, and UC San Diego. Those will have the most out-of-state students, those three colleges, and among the lowest admission rates for college admissions. They collectively enrolled 900 fewer non-resident students. I mean, some of these statistics with colleges are insane. When you think about how much it costs to go to school, and then what kind of GPA you need to get in. I was reading a statistic, Kim. These kids need like a 4.7.
Yep.
A 4.7. That means you ace everything. You take all these AP courses.
Yep.
And then you still might not get in.
I was reading this article where you could click on the high school where your child goes.
Okay.
And you could see the statistics about how many kids from the last graduating class applied to that UC, how many were accepted, and what their GPA was, what their, what the average GPA was. And I think for UC Merced, it was like 3.7 something. That's the lowest one.
Okay.
For every other UC, it was well above a 4.0, ranging from a 4.25 to a 4.7.
And then what is the message that you give your child, right? If they're like, well, first, see, this is, and you guys know.
Get a B, you're not going to college?
Well,
less than perfect, you're not going to the college of your choice?
But how do they choose that college? I think it all starts there. What are you telling your child about colleges? And let's say in California. So, quick story. And this conversation, this was just yesterday that I had. It really like kind of struck me in my heart because, there's, your dreams for your kids, wanting to support them, and then the reality of the situation. So my kids were in the back seat. My daughter goes to high school next year, and my son's still in middle school. And they were talking about how this might be the last year that they're ever in school together. And I go, why? You'll go to high school together. And my son goes, and he was kind of bragging on his sister. He's like, well, I get way better grades than her. I can go to a better high school. And I was like, well, I'm not paying for you to go to a private high school. Like, he's like, so, and he was kind of flabbergasted that it cost money to go to a better high school. He was just like, if you get better grades, you just go to a better high school. And I go, and your parents have to pay for it, kiddo. And we're saving for your college. Even though you could use the money you're saving for the college savings account, whatever you have
right
for high school. People don't do that oftentimes.
I think they do. Yeah.
Well, how many people do you know use the college money to go to high school? I think they just kind of make it work, don't they?
I think they put it in the college savings fund or the education fund because I believe it's pre-taxed. And so you can the more you put in there, you can use for private high school, college, whatever. Any education
to do that. I mean, the more you leave it in, the longer you leave it in. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Most people just leave it in there and use it for college because college is insanely expensive. And so I told my son, like, we can always apply for financial aid. Right. I don't know if they offer any sort of scholarships for whatever high school you may want to go to. Right. But it's this idea of you can't go to X unless you go to this high school. And then you can't go to, let's say, UC Berkeley, which I'm not knocking. Great college, right? A lot of people want to go to Cal. I'm not knocking that. But it's the message that we as parents give our kids that put this pressure on them. For me, I'm like, look, just take as many classes as you can for the cheapest price you can to figure out what you want to do with your life. College is 4 to 6 years, let's say, on average, right? Like, figure it out. Take time to develop it. But if you're paying out the butt, let's say at high school, and then paying out the butt for college, it's just added pressure, in my opinion. And
it is added pressure. But Julia has an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
She has to choose from between 2 high schools now.
Okay.
One is the local high school. It's Petaluma High.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the state it's ranked like 1,800 something, right?
Okay.
Academically. And they look at students who are like-minded and maybe attend AP classes and GPA and how many kids graduate and how diverse the campus is. They look at a lot of different things. Then there's this school nearby, ranked 21st in the state. You have to test in.
Right.
You have to interview.
Right.
You have to take a math test to get in. Its focus is on math and science. It's a harder high school.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go there, it's, more competition to earn the grades that will get you to college. It's more pressure.
Mm-hmm.
She got into both.
Okay.
So what does she pick?
She picks the I don't know, whichever one she really wants to go to, right?
I mean, do you pick the one that will further you, or do you pick the one that?
Well, there's no guarantee, though.
And that's the thing. It's like you could get into UC Berkeley whether you go to one or the other.
Possibly.
So
although
do you take that pressure during high school, or do you go to the school that maybe the classes aren't as hard, where you could achieve those high grades and get the 4.7?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, Portions Redacted said in many high schools in mid to lower class neighborhoods, there are no AP classes to attend. There's no way for the students to get above a 4.0 GPA.
True. Yeah.
And if that's the case at whatever high school you're sending your kid to, then are you kind of shooting them in the foot of not letting them have that equal playing field? But then I ask the question, equal playing field to where? Like, does it have to be UC Berkeley? And then if it does, why? That's the question. Why? Because UC Berkeley obviously has the big name recognition. Okay, what is that going to get you? And then what is that going to get you? Is it just going to add pressure and you still don't know what the hell you want to do with your life? Are you trying to figure it out at UC Berkeley just to get in there when you can? Ron, 2 years of community college, do well there, transfer to UC, best way to save money and still get into a UC. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that was what I wanted to talk about next. Because while the UC transfer admission guarantee, or TAG, is awesome, it is not the biggest expense. So currently, tuition at community colleges is $46 a unit, or about $1,380 a year for a full-time student. But tuition is the smallest cost that a student faces when they go to college. There is housing, transportation, textbooks. They all add up, according to Laura Mattoon, who's the Vice Chancellor of Government Relations for California's community college system. She says that all generally adds up to about $20,000 a year for a student to be enrolled full-time and have those costs covered. Now, that includes housing, which is probably, I would say, arguably, the biggest expense for students. But I would also argue that many times, not all the time, but many times, if your kid goes to community college, they may stay at home, right? If you have a nearby community college. So for instance, if my daughter or my son wanted to do 2 years at a community college here in the Bay Area, they could stay and live with me. Not saying they'd live rent-free, but I would charge them a hell of a lot less than what they would have to pay if they went and got their own apartment or whatever. Right. So, so for my son, I told him, I'm like, look, get the good grades and we'll see where we're at. But you're going to, and you know what? And just saying this out loud, I said, look, if you really want something, then work for it. But it's a lot of money. I don't know if they offer scholarships. Look into it. Do writing contests, do whatever you're interested in to make some money, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, Jim, no Bellarmine or Harker Academy for you, kiddo. My brother was a bellboy, right? I went to private high school, but it was a hell of a lot cheaper. And we were talking like it is 3 to 4 times more expensive now to go to the same high school that I went to. So when some people may look and be like, I did this, why can't you do it? There's a reason. The cost of tuition has grown exponentially, and yet wages and the cost, of how much people are making has not. So that's the difference. It doesn't make sense for a lot of people to take money from the college fund and put it into high school, because they definitely want their kid to go to high school. Lori says, unless your child has specific mental health issues with pressure situations, high pressure schools will help prepare you for life. True. But what kind of pressure does my kid need when there's so much other pressure out there? And I will say, and you guys can disagree with me, figuring out what you want to do with your life is intense, especially when you're paying out the butt for an education. You feel like you just have to grab something, not only grab something, but grab something that brings you a big paycheck on the other end. Now, if you're going to go to college, you better go for a degree that's going to pay you enough to live a life wherever you want to live. Yeah. You only want to make $35,000 a year with the degree that's the average it pays. You better move to a place where $35,000 goes far. You ain't living in the Bay Area. Just be mindful of that. But that's fine if that's what you want to go into. But you don't go to college simply for the experience. It is an experience, and I'm not knocking that. But you sure as hell better be going there to get a degree in something that's going to pay you on the other side.
I just want to party, Mom.
Believe me, I understand. But not how much it is. Yeah, Karen, $10,000 a year for private high school now. $10,000 a year. Now,
that's cheap.
That's
on the
I'm
cheap
saying
end.
It's like 25 to 30. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, even elementary schools can be that much. And I'm sorry. And I know that it's the classes, it's the extracurriculars, it's the electives, it is the experience, it's the pressure. Like someone was mentioning, look, if you can go to this really high pressure high school, you'll definitely be able to go to a high pressure college. But do I want my child to go to a high pressure college? Or do I want them to just figure out what the hell they want to do with their life, get the degree, and get out? That's a question that everyone has to ask themselves. And as parents, that's the conversation you need to have with your kid. But then there's this, and again, it's a cycle. Parents think a certain way, they pass that way of thinking down to their children, and then they reinforce it with the decisions that are made. So I love this headline. This is in the New York Post. If you think a perfect GPA and a 1600 score on the SAT will guarantee a spot for your child at Harvard or Stanford, think again. No. Grades and test scores alone are not enough to earn a student a place at a coveted Ivy League university anymore. So step in. Christopher Rim. Christopher Rim founded Command Education to empower students to identify their passions, great, and articulate their accomplishments, interests, and experiences to top schools. But just guess how much it costs to get this kind of admissions advice. $1,500 an hour.
An hour?
An hour. That's how much this guy is charging. Now, why trust him? According to this article, he was accepted into Yale with a 3.7 to 3.8 unweighted GPA, which is almost unheard of when discussing Ivy League admissions. But his extracurricular activities allowed him to stand out. Okay, good luck, student, being in any extracurricular activities and doing, getting a 4.0, 4.3, 4.7. All right. I mean, this is not necessarily what a lot of kids can do.
Yeah.
He was the only student, Rim was, only student out of 18 other applicants at his high school accepted into Yale. And he had the lowest grades. So that's why he's like, look, I didn't have the best grades. I had a 3.7, 3.8 unweighted GPA. But because I know kind of the words and how to do it, and you pay me $1,500 an hour to tell you, I can get your kid into an Ivy League school. So he curates general interests to get kids to stand out. Almost all of the students applying have near perfect grades and test scores. So he helps them stand out amongst all the other ones. We have to stop. We have to stop with this. I think we have to understand that most kids don't fit into this box, right? Most kids don't. And I think that stuff like this is what led to,
and it's okay.
College admission scandal. Yeah, and it's okay.
It's okay because their life isn't going to be ruined because of it. They'll go on to get great jobs and have great careers.
Is that what you're telling your daughter if she doesn't want to go to that high school?
I'm letting her make the choice.
And how is she deciding whether or not to? How is she deciding?
She's going back and forth, back and forth. One is a more social place,
right,
where there's more opportunities for extracurricular activities. The other is highly academic, maybe not as social, maybe not as many opportunities to do fun stuff. Right. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what she decides.
When does she have to decide by?
She has this week, and then she has to decide. So I'll let you know on Monday how that worked out.
Yeah. All right. Karen says it's all about the connections made at the school. I get that. I do. Is it enough though? And again, I don't, and you guys can answer it because I'm speaking from a place of honestly ignorance. I did not go to an Ivy League school. Connections, although I will say connections at my college, even though I went to state school, ended up getting my first job in radio. Some might argue, all right, that's one type of connection. Not necessarily if you want to hit the C-suite or something like that Harvard or Stanford or Yale or another Ivy League college could possibly give you. Murphy says kids can also be scouted for sports. Not all sports offer scholarships, but still pave the way for acceptance. Very true. Although another thing that I wouldn't want to bank on, sports, what if you injure yourself? Now all of your academic future is lost because you can no longer play the sport.
Yeah.
It's so tough. And I know when you have parents who are willing to pay, let's say somebody $1,500 an hour to write whatever admission essay or whatever to get into an Ivy League. When you have parents, especially if you know these parents doing that, it makes you feel like that's what you need to do. And it's a pressure that parents put on each other, right? To kind of keep up with the Joneses. As if, well, if they're doing it, then I have to do it because I'm not going to, have my kid behind everyone else. But I mean, I just don't subscribe to that belief. I don't. You can, and I'm not going to knock you if you know, if people that are listening right now subscribe to that belief. I'm not. If it worked for you and you've seen the success and that's what you want to do and instill in your kids, okay. But life is a marathon. It's not a sprint, you know, and there's a lot of successful people out there that we talk about all the time in big tech and all sorts of things that did not follow that path. And they're very, very successful. And then what's success look like to you? You know, success to me is a kid that, yes, is educated and is pursuing their passions, but is happy, you know, that finds fulfillment in life beyond what they could find in the classroom. And I think that's also something that you have to define for your children as well. Okay, we'll take a quick break for Kim's news. When we come back, we're going to go out to Florida. As I mentioned before, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis does not do much silently, quietly. He's kind of loud, like former President Trump. But he did this quietly. He quietly signed a bill that will allow you to have a concealed carry weapon with no permit, no training. I don't know. I just don't know what could possibly go wrong with that.
No, that sounds really safe.
I mean, it's just, you know, in light of everything that keeps happening, but you know, that's Florida for you. And then a federal judge in Tennessee has done something that might surprise people. Tennessee tried to ban drag shows because they're obsessed. It is the topic of the day, these drag shows. Tried to ban drag shows, and a federal judge said, no, you can't do that. I'll give you his reason coming up. But first, let's take a look at some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by you. If you'd like to talk to us about sponsorship opportunities, you can email us at thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. Let's start with it because, it's in Tennessee. It's happening. As we speak, protesters calling for stricter gun laws at the Tennessee state capitol. This comes 1 week after 3 children and 3 adults were murdered at the Covenant School. Several schools in Nashville are participating in what they're calling a walkout, which was organized by the youth-led group March for Our Lives. The organization was started by high school students who survived the school shooting in Parkland, Florida in 2018. You no longer have to wear a mask to see your dentist or your doctor. Turns out, as of today in California, we are no longer, the state, requiring masks for indoor healthcare and high-risk settings.
What are you? Okay, so knowing this, what are you going to do? I have to go to the hospital tomorrow. I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah.
My daughter has a compromised immune system. I think that masks inside hospitals should just always be the case. It's obviously surrounded by sick people. You're literally going to the place where sick people go. Now, the dentist, I feel differently. I'll still wear it. I don't really mind because I'm going to have my daughter always wear it, but there's not that many people inside my dentist's office. It's not like a hospital, right? I mean, there's 3 chairs and they still have all the plexiglass and one of them's in a room. But still, I think I guess it's okay to have the choice, but definitely at hospitals, I'll be wearing that mask. I do not care. No, thank you.
There's 0% chance that I will be going to a doctor's office or walking into a hospital and that I won't be looking like this guy. I mean, you know, this is the way it is now.
Yeah.
So as of today, facilities can now decide on mask guidelines based on their specific needs. Folks at the California Department of Public Health say this also applies to employees regardless of their vaccine status. They will go back to regular mask protocols. Medical and dental teams have been complying with the state's pandemic state of emergency since June of 2020. Governor Gavin Newsom terminated that state of emergency in February. So what that means is you could have, say you go into your facility as a Kaiser, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and I don't know what their policy will be, maybe Kaiser says we're going to keep masking. Maybe you walk into another Sutter facility and they say, we're not. You don't know. So you'll have to look at the sign on the door and proceed accordingly. Because everyone now can make their, every medical facility can set their own policy.
Right.
That's the way
and I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm still going to do whatever I want to do, though, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. Okay.
What, are they going to kick you out because you wear a mask?
Exactly. Well, maybe in Florida. I don't know.
We don't live in Florida, people. Amazon spending on labor consultants rose more than $14 million last year. This as the company tried to stop unionizing efforts. A Labor Department filing shows the e-commerce giant tripled its spending from last year when it first started going against union drives at warehouses. In the filing, Amazon says they hired these consultants to help in expressing the company's opinion on union representation and to educate employees about the issues. And that amount of spending soars above the anti-union spending by other large companies. That $14 million they spent on that. I don't know if you've seen this story, Nikki. And I kind of have an opinion about it. We'll see what you have to say. Mm-hmm. This is LSU basketball star Angel Reese, and she is defending the gesture that she made to Caitlin Clark from the Iowa Hawkeyes on Sunday. She said, "I don't take disrespect lightly." After the Tigers' first NCAA women's basketball victory for the national championship, Reese moved her hand over her face, a move to mean "you can't see me," made by WWE star John Cena. Then she pointed to her ring finger, which could be interpreted as the place that her championship ring is going to go. Some hosts and sports media have criticized this move. Reese said the negative reaction has only helped her excel this season.
What was wrong with what she did? I don't understand. You can't see me and I want to get a championship ring. What part of that is offensive?
It's a move of like, haha, this is me. I won. We won. In your face type of thing.
Well, you know what?
There she is in the face of a competitor who's walking toward a line to shake hands. And instead of just relishing the win, she takes a moment to basically throw down this gesture at this girl who she just beat.
I want to see the video. And in all honesty, and yeah, I think, look, if this was Steph Curry, and I know this isn't the NBA,
Steph
but
Curry's a good sport. Steph Curry wouldn't do that.
Bull. Steph Curry does stuff all the time during the game. Maybe not at the end of the game, but they trash talk all of the time, Kim. If you don't think that they're trash talking during the game, you're quite
I know they trash talk each other.
Right.
But I don't think Steph Curry's going to throw down this type of thing.
I want to see the video. I don't find it offensive. I don't think "you can't see me, I'm getting the ring" is that bad.
I find it very low rent, very low class.
I don't know. I wonder if you say that because she's a woman. I wonder if you say that because she's a woman. If it was a guy, I don't think it would make headlines.
To do it.
I don't think it would make headlines if it was a guy.
She just won the game. The only thing she needs to do is stand up there and get the win. That's it.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. Could she have just said "good game" and walked off? Absolutely. Right. But is it worth? I don't think it's worth the headline at all. I think that it's. I will say this: if it was a guy, this would never have even been mentioned.
You think
never.
so?
Oh, absolutely.
I think it would have. I think I want to disagree with you on that one.
I'm not going to do it because I don't have the time, but I will bet you dollars to donuts that when that buzzer beater was hit in the men's game, that there was somebody doing some sort of trash talk that nobody paid any attention to.
You might be right. I don't know. All right, we're moving on to Moana because here comes another. Disney gearing up to release a live action remake of Moana.
I don't know.
Actor Dwayne Johnson made the announcement today at the Disney 2023 annual meeting of shareholders webcast. In a tweet that coincided with the pre-recorded announcement, Johnson said he's excited to tell the story of Polynesian people through the realm of music and dance. Johnson, of course, voiced demigod Maui in the original version of the film, the cartoon version.
And he's going to do the live action?
He's going to reprise the role in the live action movie. No word yet on who will star alongside him or when the film will be released.
Well, whoever it's going to be, there's going to be an outrage from somebody about whoever it is, I'm sure. I actually, now that The Rock's going to be in it, I like it. If he wasn't in it, I'd be like, oh, do we really need to do this again? But since it's going to be him, I think that makes it kind of cool, you know?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they should get all the characters from the movie.
Well, who was the woman? Who was the girl?
I forget her name, but she's Hawaiian.
Yeah, I mean, if they could get her, I mean, I don't know how good of an actress. I mean, she's a voice actress, right? So I don't know how much of a live action actress she might be, but if she's good,
Auli'i Cravalho was her name.
Yeah, I've never heard of her.
Yeah, she's an American actress and singer who made her debut as the voice of Moana.
Oh, Karen says they're casting in Hawaii, so that's good. Yeah. All right. I don't know if I'm going to watch it, but I like it.
Will.
I like the news better.
I love the music. Love it. The Nikki Medoro Show is crowdfunded, so we thank those of you in our community. You can find the Patreon and the PayPal link at thenikkimedoroshow.com. Oops, take it away, Moana. thenikkimedoroshow.com is where you will find it. And of course, the Super Chat is live here on YouTube as well. And so we thank you for sponsoring and contributing the show. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thanks for joining us on the second half of the Nikki Medoro Show. Please click that thumbs up button right at the bottom of your screen. I love it. Kim loves it. YouTube loves it. It's great. You know what's interesting, Kim? And I was going to do this later on this week, but I'll do it today because I just got a text message when you were doing your lockout from one of my friends. And I'm totally going to pose the question to you right now.
Okay.
Random weird question. Do you guys still do Easter baskets for your older ones? And if so, what do you put in them? Kim, do you still do My kids are acting like it's friggin' Christmas. Oh, I can't wait till Easter. And I'm like, and I totally do. I agree with you. I do Easter baskets. What age, if any, do you think the Easter baskets should end?
So my sister and I kept up with the egg hunt even.
Oh, yeah.
Until we had to be in our 20s, until we started having our own kids.
Okay.
We were knocking each other out of the way. It was like a knockdown drag out of my mom's backyard. We probably carried it on a little too long. I feel like my daughter now doesn't want to do the egg hunt.
Why?
She's feeling like she's a little too cool for school. She's a little too old for that now.
Do you do regular, like actual hard-boiled eggs, or do you do with like stuff inside of them?
Stuff inside of them.
Do you do money inside of them?
Yes, money and candy.
Yeah. So that's what my husband blew it. What was it? It was right before COVID, I think. He totally blew it. I am like, just put a couple dollar coins, and my husband always wants to like take it to the next level. So he was like putting 20s in these.
Too much.
And it was too much money. And then he didn't do it evenly. Right? Like, I'm like, okay, everybody, there's like sparkle eggs. You get 2 sparkle eggs. At least we know that everybody's going to get a certain amount. Nope. He totally effed up, had the wrong number. And like my nephew got all upset. And then it was just total S show. And I'm like, you're never in charge of this ever again.
So
but
at my house, there's one golden egg.
Yes.
It has the 20.
Yeah. And that's fine.
If you find the golden egg and everyone else is pissed off if someone finds the golden egg and you didn't,
of course,
there's tears. There's people see it at the same time and run for it. It's like a SmackDown WWE kind of style. And then there's a smaller one that has $10 in it. So those are the 2 top prize getters.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm going to do them. Well, so my daughter really, she's like, I hope, I love kids. I hope the Easter Bunny brings me a Hello Kitty Easter basket. And I'm like, I don't think that the Easter Bunny gives 2 craps about Hello Kitty. Thank you. So yeah, we still do them. We don't go all out. It is not Christmas. I see some of these baskets.
Yeah.
One tradition that one of my friends, my mom friends does, which I actually find is clever. She does a summer Easter basket. So it has a bathing suit. It has, because this is the time of year to buy all that stuff.
Sure.
So it has that kind of stuff. So we got to buy it anyway. So let's just put it in the Easter the Easter basket, which I find kind of ingenious. Plus although, we used to just get candy. I don't like having so much freaking candy in my house because my kids eat like anyway. Right. So
that's why the money, you guys in the chat were saying, oh, money for the eggs. No, just put in the chocolate things and little eggs. But sometimes it's too much candy. That's why some eggs have quarters and some have,
nickels and whatever. Right. Yeah.
Because I want to cut down on the candy.
Yeah. And the money, honestly, whether you spend it on the Easter basket, candy, I mean, why not just take the money that you're spending on candy, split it up into a couple dollar bills and make it a little more fun for all of them. So anyways, yes, the answer that I will be texting my friend is yes, we do Easter baskets, but it is not Christmas.
I like the idea of a summer basket, like of
right?
summer clothes, a pair of shorts, a t-shirt.
Some like swim goggles.
That's right. Perfect.
And we're going to Hawaii, so I could probably, but I'm not doing any of
Truth
that
is,
stuff
you're going to
here.
buy that stuff anyway. It's might as shove it in the basket and make it a present.
Exactly. Yeah. But then expectations, right? Then expectations. Then, this Easter basket isn't as big. Yeah. Learn disappointment, child. There you go. Speaking of like dressing things up, did you see this? I wanted to bring this up last Friday, and I don't know. I apologize if you did it in your news and I just missed it. Did you see the surfer dude in Santa Cruz?
Oh,
he had been dressed in a red shirt that says "Moms demand action for gun sense in America."
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, no, I like it. And I bring that up because, of course, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a permitless carry bill into law. We're gonna go to WESH, which is a TV station, obviously, on the East Coast, to kind of because I want to show this one because I like they interview people that don't think like we do necessarily. So here is that report on Governor DeSantis's bill.
That I am, in fact, not worried about mass shootings with the passage of this bill. I'm worried about mass idiots.
There's mass idiots out there before this bill. There'll be mass idiots after this bill. There'll always be mass idiots out there.
The Senate battle over a measure to eliminate the need for permits to carry concealed weapons in Florida eventually left outnumbered Democrats out of ammunition.
27 yeas, 13 nays, Madam President.
Show the bill.
Republicans sent the bill already passed in the House to the desk of Governor Ron DeSantis, who already promised to sign it.
This doesn't turn you into James Bond with a license to kill.
Former state lawmaker and gun shop owner Carrie Baker says the background checks for concealed carry permits are not substantially different than they are for purchasing a gun, and requiring a concealed carry permit at an initial cost of roughly $150 amounts to an unnecessary expense.
25 other states have adopted either this type of law or something similar, and they haven't had any problems. I mean, it's been a wildly successful program in other states. I think it'll be the same right here in Florida.
Under the proposed new law, gun owners would still be prohibited from bringing firearms into places like government meetings, airports, bars, police stations, courthouses, and in most cases, school and college campuses. Critics say the public safety bill leaves out a key provision, the requirement for a safety course. That means anyone passing background checks for all guns and waiting the mandatory 3-day period for a handgun can carry one concealed with no experience, no training.
People do not feel safer when they know that people are wandering around Publix with a gun they learned to use on YouTube.
Brandon Wolf of Equality, Florida, is a survivor of the 2016 Pulse nightclub massacre in Orlando. He says Republicans could and should have required firearms training.
When you hand someone a gun they don't know how to use, they don't know how to load, they don't know how to store, it is far more likely that they're going to end up injuring or killing themselves or someone else in the process.
The concealed carry program will continue for people who need proof in other states of the lawful right to carry a concealed firearm.
That's Florida for you. And it's just really, it's so dangerous, especially in light of the fact that we just had another mass shooting. So going into it a little bit, DeSantis said in the press release today, constitutional carry is still in the books, although open carry is still illegal in Florida. Let's see. So the bill eliminates the need for a concealed weapons license, which required a mandatory background check and firearms training course. It adds private schools to the list of educational facilities that can ask the local sheriff for help establishing a guardian program. It requires law enforcement agencies to develop an active assailant response policy, blah, 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 blah. So does the concealed weapon bill change who can buy a firearm? No, you have to be 21 or older. And there are restrictions if you've been convicted of a felony, thank God. Any weapon you are allowed to own in Florida, you can conceal. Although machine guns or fully automatic weapons are still prohibited, as are short barrel rifles and destructive devices like bombs. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, What's the problem with $150 and a training course? Is that really infringing on your constitutional rights? I feel like there should be bars when we're talking about something like gun ownership. There should be a level where it's not so easy, where you have to mean it, right? All right, well, I have to spend $150. I have to take this training course, so I must really want this weapon. I want to be responsible. Why not? Why is that so difficult? You heard that asshat there. He's like, nope, it's an infringement. It's just undo. Like $150, really? That's just too high for carrying a weapon in a country that has a gun problem, that has a mass shooting problem. It's just insane. But it's Florida. But like you mentioned, he's like, there's 25 other states that already do it. It's been a wild success, says a man who lives in a country that has so many mass shootings every single year. You really gotta stretch the truth of reality to think that any sort of loosening of gun restrictions has been a wild success in the United States of America. That's a bit rich. And especially because there are groups of people that are at risk besides just our innocent children that are going to school and a classmate gets a gun, or some wackadoo has a beef with their old school, and so they go and shoot up the place, killing 6 people, including 3 children. This is the reality for so many people. But beyond students and children, there are groups. The LGBTQ community has been literally under attack by this narrative that has been perpetuated by the GOP. And it all has to do with transgender rights, gender affirming care, and drag shows. So this was actually a bit of good news in a state like Tennessee. This happened on Friday. A federal judge announced that he was temporarily blocking Tennessee's first in the nation law that put strict limits on drag shows. Now, this was just hours before it was supposed to go into effect. And that's because the judge sided with the group that filed a lawsuit claiming it violates the First Amendment, which just should make the GOP so very happy. The judge, Thomas Parker, wrote that the state had failed to make a compelling argument as to why Tennessee needed the new law, adding that the court also agrees that the statute is vague and overly broad. The word drag does not appear in the new law. It did change the definition of adult cabaret in Tennessee to mean adult-oriented performances that are harmful to minors. What in the holy heck does that mean?
It means we don't want you to do story time at the library or to go into our schools and do story time in the classroom.
Adult-oriented performances that are harmful to minors, in my opinion, can include movies. If you put your kid down in front of any sort of movie that shows violence, isn't that harmful to minors? You define harm to minors.
Do you feel like Mrs. Doubtfire is harmful?
Well, no, of course not.
Mrs. Doubtfire features a man in drag.
So see, I mean, come on. Throughout history, we have had movies and shows and dressed up, and it was never a problem. It is the GOP that has sent out a memo that this is their new line of attack, and this is their new issue to divide the country, to scare certain people, likely in Middle America, who don't even understand what a drag show is, don't even understand the history of drag, and have used it as a kind of broad brush to call everybody pedophiles and groomers. I'm not going to play it because it aggravated the living crap out of me. But the Marjorie Taylor Greene interview with Leslie Stahl, where she called all Democrats pedophiles because they're sexualizing children who want to look into gender affirming care or what have you. Now we could debate, of course, whether Leslie Stahl should have gone harder on her. I think Leslie Stahl was acting like many of us do at the dinner table with the crazy uncle. was just like, okay, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you. Could she have gone a little bit further? Could she have said that it's offensive? Could she have said that, that there are transgender members of the community that deserve representation in Washington, and that their rights and issues and concerns about their community matter just as much as hers? Yes. She could have said a lot of things. Leslie Stahl could have, but I don't know why she did the friggin' interview with MTG to begin with. That's my true issue with it. She shouldn't have
at least given the real definition of a pedophile.
True.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think Leslie Stahl should have interviewed Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think that we're making the same mistake again by giving a spotlight and a bigger microphone to people that don't deserve it, that don't actually represent most of the people in this country. But by putting her on, they have made her some sort of legitimate political figure. Now, she is a politician. She was elected. I'm not knocking that. But does she really represent the views and values of most of America? And should her voice and opinions be elevated by Leslie Stahl? No. But they did it for ratings. They did it because they know that when you say you're going to interview the wackadoo Marjorie Taylor Greene, people will tune in to see what nonsense comes out of her mouth. And that's the same thing that we did with former President Trump. We all tuned in to see what he did and see what he would say. And look where it got us.
Yep.
It didn't serve us as a country. It didn't. And so I don't have much of an issue with Leslie Stahl not pushing back on MTG. I have more of an issue with her even sitting in front of her and legitimizing her viewpoints. But
there is an article, an op-ed article on CNN today that agrees with you. They're saying, why is 60 Minutes amplifying the views of Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Exactly.
That's the whole point of it. Why give her a platform to spew that crazy?
Why walk with her? And you know what pissed me off too? That B-roll scene of them walking together and point at the bush and all that kind of crap. Stop. She's nuts. She supported the insurrection. She still promotes election fraud. It's that whole conspiracy. Stop elevating people like her. Again, I don't agree with him, and I had him at the beginning of the show today. But you want to talk to somebody at least that seems a little bit sane. Asa Hutchinson, right? If you're going to talk to people that have differing viewpoints than other people in the country, at least talk to somebody sane. Like, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a troll. She's a troll that's trying to elevate her brand. And that's it. So it's bull. It's total bull that they had her on. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't deserve to have any microphone put in her face. She should yell into the ether, into the void, and not be heard of again, but that's it. And in the meantime, the people that she's targeting are being targeted by others who now in places like Florida can carry a gun, a concealed weapon anywhere they want to with no training. One other story kind of under this umbrella, which is also getting the far right and the GOP in a tizzy, is Dylan Mulvaney. Now, if you don't know who Dylan Mulvaney is, transgender TikTok star. If you're not on TikTok, you probably have never seen her face, but here she is. Again, this is just you have to wonder sometimes why businesses make the decisions that they do, because on one hand, you want to show your support for certain members of the community, which I applaud. On the other hand, you already know what the pushback's going to be. That is Dylan Mulvaney, who apparently is the new spokesperson for Bud Light. She revealed on Saturday that the beer company sent packs of Bud Light featuring her face as a way to celebrate 365 days of girlhood. So apparently Mulvaney put out a TikTok video that was kind of showing 365 days since she's become a girl. Obviously she's transitioning. So they know what they're doing, right? I mean, it was just, on one hand, I applaud it. Like, it's quite, I don't want to use the word brave because it's a business and they're just making money off of it, but they're going to face a lot of pushback. Let's read some of the pushback. Who the hell at Bud Light thought it was a good idea to make a grown man who dresses like little girls their new spokesperson?
Oh, no.
Brands have to stop listening to their woke creative teams and get in touch with their consumer demographics. The reason I read that is, okay, who is the demographic of Bud Light? Does it make sense for Bud Light to do this? But on the other hand, it's like, well, wait a minute. Maybe Bud Light's like, I don't want my demographic to solely be transphobic beer drinkers. Another person says Bud Light, the groomer of beers, because
come on,
the GOP truly apparently believes that if you are transgender, you are grooming children to be just like you. Let's see. I think I have another picture of it too.
That's
here's
really
another picture.
scary. That's really scary. I think that can incite violence.
Thank you.
That whole
Thank
grooming
you.
thing. That's not what we do.
Of course it does. Because you know what they're
And
going
by
to do.
we, I mean as a society. That's not how we treat people. Mm-mm.
Do you guys remember Pizzagate? Do you remember the whole conspiracy with Hillary Clinton and how she was, trafficking children in the basement? Do you remember how it led to a guy to have a loaded gun and brought it into a pizza place with no basement? And that's the one thing that kind of made it click in his head that this wasn't true.
But if
this is what it can lead to.
You listen to conservatives and the whole Marjorie Taylor Greene on 60 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if they don't like you or if they don't like your views, all of a sudden you're some type of groomer. As if your politics has anything to do with children. As if one thing has anything to do with the other. So all of a sudden, I think I would really caution people when they hear the word groomer to really think about what that means and whether it's applicable.
Yeah. And because there are actual children being sexually abused in this country, right? I mean, there are, the thing that bothers me is, and I'm just going to make the comparison because you have to make a comparison when you talk about stuff like this, in my opinion. That people will take one instance of a transgender person doing some sort of crime, whether it's a sex crime, a shooting, whatever. And they're like, see, that's the danger with the transgender community, and have no problem sending their child to, let's say, the Catholic Church, which has documented generations of, you want to talk about grooming
or
and
Boy
pedophiles
Scouts.
or Boy Scouts, have no problem doing that. Now, again,
Or
I'm
your
not
local
saying
gymnastics gym.
all churches or gyms or Boy Scout troops are that, but they don't seem to bat an eye at the documented case after case of it happening and still send their little kid away to go participate. And yet the transgender community has to be responsible for like one person that might do something bad, and that is supposed to represent all of them. That's what's ridiculous about this whole conversation. Karen writes in, MTG uses trigger words that stay in people's minds. She lives in your mind rent free. Publicity, good or bad, is all good for people like her. True. But I will say also the fact that, she speaks for the people that obviously live in Georgia, right? Yeah. They reelected her. So obviously people that live there like her for some godforsaken reason. I don't know if she's media savvy. I think that she knows that if she says certain things, she'll get reelected because the people in her district obviously agree with her.
Or if she knows that if she says certain things, it's going to be front and center on the media. The more outrageous that the words, the higher it goes up in the headlines, right?
Yeah. It's just, it's ridiculous. And again, Leslie Stahl should have never interviewed her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wes says pedophile priests and preachers are the real groomers. Yep. I mean, not all of them. And again, I know some good priests. I know a lot of religious people that are not groomers. I'm not going to paint all of it with a broad brush, but it's really rich for the GOP to call every single member of the transgender community groomers, to call drag people that do drag groomers, and yet not call out these other longtime institutions that have been proven to include pedophiles and actual groomers. So it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the hypocrisy is so thick, which isn't surprising. I should calm down. It is not surprising that there's hypocrisy, in politics in general, but in this case. Vilma says it's people that live in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. They believe in the crazies. Yeah, absolutely. And we don't understand them. No. I say this all the time when we talk about, voting and how do Bo Burton, Marjorie Taylor Greene's, and even Mitch McConnell's keep getting elected. It's because the people in their district are like them and they don't know any better. And they just watch Fox News and Newsmax and OWN and all that crap. All right. So, again, it's it's Tennessee, it's Florida, it's Georgia.
Yeah.
But we also have to stay vigilant as a society and call out the BS when we see it. Okay, Kim has news. When we come back, could there be a simple solution to homelessness? Thank you to, I think it was California Fireman that sent me this story. And I'm going to share you a story about this shirt that I'm wearing. It says, I know you can't see it all. It says, focus on the good. And it was a really cute t-shirt. And it's a lesson. I used this shirt to spur a lesson in having a moral code with my children yesterday. Okay. So I'm gonna share that story yesterday. And I was quite disappointed in what I saw. And then you tell me what you would have done in my situation. Okay. So that story is coming up. Again, click that thumbs up button to show support of the show. The super chat is live. I'll give some shout outs to people that can donate. Look for the $ underneath the live chat box. And you can always donate during and even during the replay. Scott R became our newest Medorable during the show. If you would like to
Scott.
come on, thank you so much, Scott. Just go to theNikkiMedoroShow.com and donate to our Patreon. Become a Medorable yourself. TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com is how you reach us, how you make PayPal donations. And of course, the shop is open. TheNikkiMedoroShop.com is where you go for all of that. All right, we'll talk about everything and more right after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And we begin with former President Trump and his legal team now opposed to having cameras in the courtroom where he will face charges related to a hush money deal to an adult film actress. Trump's attorney telling Forbes prosecutors want to make the case a spectacle. This comes after some state lawmakers asked the judge to make an exception to a law prohibiting cameras in the courtroom. I mean, hey, we got to see the whole Gwyneth Paltrow trial, right? I guess, why not the Trump trial? Or do you think that might make it even crazier than it already is going to be?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be crazy either way. Airing it, is it going to be like OJ though? I mean, like, is it going to be, no one's going to get any work done?
We'll be glued to it. Yes.
I kind of want it and I kind of don't, right? It's one of those things where it's a car crash. And although then we all can see it, right? Nobody can twist and turn what happened inside the courtroom or anything.
Saw it
like
with
that.
your own eyes,
Exactly.
heard it with your own ears. Yep.
There you go.
Sad situation still going on in the Nashville area. And now we have new details coming out about the school shooter who killed 3 children and 3 adults in Nashville. You can see pictures of the dead at a memorial here on the screen. The suspect apparently spent months planning this attack, that according to the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. The shooting, of course, happened at the Covenant School last week. The Pentagon says it did take steps to limit surveillance abilities of this Chinese balloon that flew over the U.S. earlier this year. Defense Department spokesperson Sabrina Singh told reporters Monday the U.S. took precautionary measures to protect intel from sensitive military sites after the discovery of this balloon in U.S. airspace in late January. She said authorities are still assessing exactly what information that China was able to gather there. The Department of Water Resources was out near Lake Tahoe this morning measuring the record Sierra snowpack. Let me tell you what they found. They found a snow depth of 126 inches and a snow water content of 54 inches. That's good for 221% of normal for April 1st at the location right near Highway 50 in El Dorado County. Statewide, automated sensors measured 237% of average for this date. It's the largest statewide total recorded since the automated network was launched in the mid-1980s. April 1st is typically the peak of the snowpack. In recent years, the Department of Water Resources officials were standing in a dry field for the April 1st measurement. This year, they expect to be back to take another look on May 1st. That's crazy that they're going to do another snowpack estimate on May 1st.
It's I'm getting more and more concerned, and I hate being like the negative Nancy with this whole thing, because I know I am so scared of what's going to happen this spring and summer. I mean, spring
Flooding?
really, with the flooding. I'm just, I mean, they're running out of places to put the snow now. It's when that melts, it's frightening. I don't know what we could do now to plan for it, because we don't know how quickly things are going to warm up. I keep mentioning Steve Paulson from KTVU. He keeps saying it. He's like, let's just hope it doesn't get warm too quickly. And I'm like, from your lips to God's ears, please.
Well, it's going to be, they're saying 80 degrees in the North Bay next weekend. So
yeah, see, and like, so that just, with the burn scars still, it's just too much of a good thing. Unfortunately, I think so.
One of the most famous ships in California is reopened for tours again. The Queen Mary welcomed visitors back on Saturday after pausing for 3 years because of the pandemic. Starting next month, reservations will start for overnight stays too. The Queen Mary retired in 1967 and was converted into a hotel. It's permanently docked in Long Beach and known as one of the most haunted destinations in the country, complete with ghost tours.
Ooh, scary.
Okay, so this next one I'm going to present a screen to you.
Okay.
There is this study that shows the healthiest cities in America.
Okay.
I have to take off the Queen Mary in order to do this.
By
My
Queen
apologies.
Mary. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
So here's the story. The story goes a little bit like this. This website called Stacker, Stacker,
Okay.
determined the most health-conscious cities. What they did is they piggybacked onto another study done by a group called Niche. Niche did a 2022 healthiest places to live rankings. So then Stacker comes in and they determine the most health-conscious cities. The Niche study looked at smoking, regular alcohol consumption, access to gyms, access to doctors, mental health professionals, the obesity rates, to basically rank the overall everything there.
Okay.
Number one most health conscious city in America is the city of Berkeley.
Okay.
There it is. Number two,
San
city of
Francisco.
Francisco.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Number three, then we have Irvine, California. And then we start going to other states. 4 is Seattle, Washington. 5th most health conscious city is Bellevue, Washington. Looks pretty there. Lots of access to water sports. 6 is Torrance, California.
Okay.
I'll do the top 10. 7 is Boulder, Colorado. 8 is Pasadena, California. 9 is Cambridge, Massachusetts. And rounding out the top 10, Arlington, Virginia. Some other Bay Area cities were in here. Looks like Santa Rosa ranked number 50. We had Carlsbad at number 11, Costa Mesa number 12, Glendale number 13. So a lot of California cities making the cut in this one.
Nice.
So I just thought that was an
Very
interesting way
nice.
to end it off.
We need
Yeah.
some good headlines over there. There we go.
Yeah, hey, pays to be healthy, right?
Exactly.
This report is crowdfunded, as is the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you to those already in the Nikki Medoro Show community. If you would like to support the show, please check out our PayPal link and our Patreon link at thenikkimedoroshow.com. Great website anyway. And then just check out all the things on there. You can find the links to the podcast on there as well, if that's the way you want to listen. So it's not just about supporting the show that way. It's about supporting us in all ways. Click the like button, and we thank you for being here and supporting the show. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
There you go. Thank you, Kim. All right. Well, one of the big issues, and I know I saw in the comments when you were doing the whole study on the healthiest places or whatever, California, don't show People's Park, don't show, having San Francisco on there with San Francisco having all of these issues, it can be a bit of a what, right? But it's also because housing is so expensive over here. Why? Because people want to live in places like California and the Bay Area. Well, there's this new startup that has come up with something they're calling, and I'm going to show you the picture. And I hesitate to say it this way, but here's a picture of it. It's an inflatable home. Okay.
Okay.
It's a 3D printed home, and we've heard about these, but it's basically formed by filling cement inside a balloon-like structure. And then they have reinforcing elements like rebar and tension cables pre-installed inside the forms. Eventually that's going to happen. They call it the inflatable flexible factory formwork. Let's see. So the rolled up form is initially brought to the construction site. It's made of PVC, which is one of the most commonly used plastics in the world. It's inflated with an air pump after being laid on a concrete slab or other foundation. The concrete is then pumped into the form by a ready mix truck, which can either mix the concrete on the way to the site or at the site itself. So for a 100 square foot and 200 square foot prototypes, the inflation took, how long do you think? Oh, you guys tell me in the comments. How long do you think it takes to inflate? I'm going to put that in quotes. Inflate that home right there. How long do you think it takes?
Doesn't look very big.
So it's about 100 to 200 square feet. So it's a room, I would say, right? It's a place to live, kind of a tiny home, perhaps. How much do you think the inflation takes?
I'm going to say it's about 3 giant pool unicorns. I'm going to go an hour.
Okay. You're close. You're close. Okay. So, well, the inflation takes 7 to 10 minutes with air. Then the concrete pump fills them in about 1.5 hours. So you're about, a couple of hours, let's say 2 hours. Right. Yeah, about 2 hours. See, a lot of people were thinking it was like a full day. No. So think about it. If you could do one of these things in 2 hours, how many could you build in a day? Right? If you have, even if you had to do it one by one, that's a lot. Why can't these sort of technologies take off more? Why do we have to keep hearing price tags in the tens, if not hundreds of dollars for all of these tiny homes that aren't working or aren't in the place for anybody? Now, is it the most attractive building? Could it use some paint and decor? Yes. But is it a good alternative to building a traditional type of house? Absolutely. Absolutely. Eyesore village. Come on, Chris. You know what's an eyesore? Say it with me. Homeless encampments. That's what's an eyesore. What would you rather have? That? Put some paint on it, flower pot or two in the front of it, or an encampment? I mean, come on. There is no argument that this is way better than that. And I just feel like bringing down the cost. Hold on. So I wanted to talk about how much this costs. I had it somewhere. Okay. So the concrete filled in 1.5 hours, including labor, prototypes only cost $20 per square foot. Talking a couple $1,000s here, people.
That's
talking
pretty
about
good.
a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
Let's stop arguing about, oh my God, how's it look, what it's going to do to my neighborhood. We don't like encampments. That's what we don't want. We need a house, people. People need shelter. People need to get out of the rain, out of the sun. They need a place to call their own. I don't know about plumbing. Let me see. I'm assuming.
Maybe there's a community potty.
Oh, I hope not. I think everybody wants their own potty. The community potty can end up being the freaking street. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call it a home if it didn't include something more than just 4 walls and a roof. Okay. So I'm hoping that it doesn't say it in my article. So
yeah.
Ooh, I don't know how long it takes for it to dry. That's a good question, but I don't know. As long as any other concrete, like your driveway, takes to dry, I would assume. Yeah, see, Floyd, tents, mountains of crap. That's the real eyesore. Absolutely. Yeah. Knit says we still need housing and shelter for working people in places they can buy, not just rent. There is this new housing development happening in San Jose, and they're already, I think, putting on Zillow how much these homes are going to cost. It's like new construction. And everyone's like, oh, look, they're building new housing. These homes are going for $3 million. $3 million. That's not housing for the average person. Nobody wants to spend $3 million on a home in busy ass San Jose.
What happened to the whole affordable housing push?
I don't know, man. It's crazy. People don't have the money for that.
I saw these homes sitting in traffic one day. This is back when I was driving back and forth to the city and we were still working at Station X. And I'm sitting there in traffic, and they're building this massive development of townhomes overlooking lovely Highway 101 at the Novato Narrows.
Right.
They're townhomes
Mm-hmm.
overlooking the freeway. Just like say that, okay?
Okay.
Which means you're sucking in all the air
Oh,
pollution
yes,
from the
all
freeway,
that.
right? Not the like the most idyllic, picturesque spot.
No.
There's a sign now selling for almost $1 million for
Yeah.
a townhome. For a
Mhm.
townhome overlooking the freeway.
Freeway. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's not affordable housing.
No, it is not. And we have to stop this whole idea. Oh, I love the signs. Under $1.5 million. I about under $600,000. Right? I mean, even that's a ton of money. And then what you get for it. Like, please, can I spend $3 million? My friend just left, moved out of state. Her house went, she was selling it, I think the asking price was 1.9 ish. It went for 2.2. And I mean, she says it herself. She's like, it's just a freaking house. Like, I can't believe that there was a bidding war. And obviously they're going to take the higher price, right? I mean, I'm not knocking them for it. People can't afford it. And then they're like, oh, those people should just pick themselves up from their bootstraps. Believe me, if they could, they would. And you can't force people to leave the area. I mean, if they're not leaving with the high cost of living now, they're not living anywhere.
So brand new luxury apartments. I thought when they built this monstrosity in Petaluma, it was going to be affordable housing. This is called La Via Apartments. La Via Apartments.
La Via.
Right on the Petaluma River.
Ooh, okay.
On the boulevard. Down a little, but on the boulevard.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, this is going to be affordable housing. You can't buy these places. They're only for rent.
Oh,
and
okay.
it looks like for a 2-bedroom apartment, it's more than $3,000 a month. Now, okay, that's like a rental that I would think you would charge for a house in Petaluma, not for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Nope.
And I get that there's a room to hang your bike and there's a gym and there's all these amenities. That's not affordable housing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And Stars, first policy I like in Bay Area is single family and townhomes can only be owned by U.S. residents, not corporations. Yeah. It sucks, because people only have so much money that they can make. It's not, not everybody can make, in the high millions dollar salary. It doesn't make any sense. And it sucks, and people become desperate and they obviously can end up on the streets, and they can also go to a life of crime. So in the last few minutes that we have of the show, I do want to get into this t-shirt. Okay. So this t-shirt says focus on the good. I thought it was really, really cute.
Okay.
I bought it at this store that I had never set foot in. And I don't know if you have it in Petaluma. It's called Five Below. Have you ever heard of that? So it's like a dollar store, but instead of $1, it's fine. Everything's like about $5 and less. Maybe it's like $5.55 or something like that. It's like a dollar store. It's like cheap stuff. But I mean, they've got a ton of stuff, wide ranging. I mean, they have workout stuff and they have it's like electronics. So for instance, you can get headphones and earbuds. Everything's $5. Now, some of it I look at, I'm like, that's not even worth $5, but that's how they offset everything. I'd never been in it. My kids wanted to go. They had a couple dollars burning in their pocket. So why not go blow it at some place like this? So we go in there and these t-shirts, all the t-shirts were $5. And I was like, that's pretty good. Like, I'll buy a t-shirt for $5. That's not too bad. It's cute. It has a little cute message. I like yellow. Looks good on my tan skin. So I bought it. I got a book, my kids got like squish stuff that I still think that they overpaid for, and they spent their own money. I told them, I'm like, look, I'm not buying you anything. If you want to go to this place, you bring your own money and do it. And they did. I mean, and they had a cart. They were going to town. And I was like, as long as you guys know that you're spending your own money, I'm not spending any of my money. And they were really great about it. Unfortunately, I feel like there was just shoplifting happening all around me. So I'm walking towards the aisle that has like the headphones, and they have like selfie sticks and kind of more of the electronically based stuff. And I swear to God, this guy looked at me and he put his hands in his pocket and it sounded like there was a package in it. Okay. I felt like he was shoplifting. I did. Right. Now, what am I going to do right there? Am I going to be like, are you stealing that? Like, no, I'm not security.
It's $5 and below. Why are you shoplifting this?
Thank you. Okay. So I just put it in the back of my mind and I was like, whatever. And the guy looked like maybe he was 17 years old. Okay. Not that it makes it okay. So we go shopping and my kids say it. They're like, Mom, everybody was stealing things in there. And I was like, what? And my son's like, yeah. He's like, there was a thing of Starbursts and like a bunch of the candy was taken out of the package and then just left there. And like, they were just, and I was, and they're like, and my mom and my daughter was all, there's no sensors on any of the items. So you could just walk out. There's no security thing. And I sat them down because if there was ever a moment in which I wanted to instill something in my kids, it was this. I was like, look, integrity is who you are when nobody is looking.
Right.
And so obviously the value of this person where their integrity can be sold for $5 and less, you know, that's it. They are willing when no one is looking and no one's going to bust them. That's who they are. And I'm like, that's not who we are. I'm like, we pay for things. And what was interesting is there was even this moment, my daughter was checking out and there was this thing that wasn't scanning. It was saying the item wasn't in the computer. And there was a part of me that was like, well, I guess you're just going to give it to us. And the woman just looked at the cheapest thing on my daughter's thing. And it was like $3. And she's like, just scan that again. And she's like, I don't know if it's $5, but go ahead. Like, that's what you're going to get it for. And I was like, fine. I mean, she was the worker. So she did that. But there are no tags, scanning tags. There's nothing. And so I Googled it this morning because I wanted to share the story and just, you know, geez, when people talk about shoplifting, we talk about it so much because, you know, it makes the news all the time. On one, I was like, what is this store doing? It's not going to last in business if you're not going to do any sort of. There are so many like Reddit threads, Tumblr threads about shoplifting at this specific store.
Because it's easy to do.
And I don't know why. If anybody knows in the comments why you would have a business model that one doesn't put like scanner tags on anything. I mean, I don't know if it's
Five Below isn't going to be around very long.
No, and you've never heard of it. Like there's only one in San Jose because I was trying to find one closer to my house and we had to kind of drive a little bit to go to it because my daughter really wanted to check it out. And it does have cool things. I mean, it has a little bit of everything. I would say way more than it doesn't really have groceries, although it does have food and candy and stuff like that. But no, and John, it wasn't homeless people. This kid that I saw that I feel like was shoplifting, wearing normal clothes, looked clean, didn't look like he was off the streets or anything. It's just when people have when presented with an opportunity to do the wrong thing, so many people do. And that's what's sad about it. And so I don't know. I was just really disappointed in seeing it. I was proud of my kids for, you know, obviously my kids wouldn't steal anything, and it gave me a moment to have this conversation because you look for these as parents, right? But yeah, if anybody works for or knows what's going on with stores like this, the other thing that people were saying in the Reddit thread was they could write it off. So like insurance covers it. So it's kind of like a business write-off for people to steal things, but still. No. It was just
that's an excuse to Five Below. That's the name of the
sign. Yeah, that's the sign. And I don't know. It was so crazy, Kim. I'm not even kidding. Apparently it was a free-for-all. And my kids were just blown away. And I mean, I really had, because, you know, they're still kids. And I still don't believe my kids would ever steal anything. But God, the enticement, how difficult it must be if your parents didn't raise you the right way. There's a store I can walk into and they don't even have They don't even have like metal detectors. They have nothing. And they have a ton of cool stuff. And they have some pretty cool stuff. T-shirts, all sorts of things. Like cornucopia for kleptos, like John said. Yep. Or just a-holes. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm not stealing, but I'll steal some time for you guys tomorrow. Okay, so programming note tomorrow. Obviously, former President Trump is set to be arraigned. We'll be keeping a close eye on it. I will be here. I'll be a little late to the show because my daughter has an infusion. Can't really change that. It's just what happened.
I'll kick it off. Yeah. We're going to do it.
But we have another interview, Emily Hovind with the Chronicle.
Yay.
She's going to be on. I don't know if you've read the editorial in the Chronicle lately, but they've been getting some pushback on this doom loop that the city of San Francisco has found themselves in because they didn't learn any lessons from 9/11. And what can they do to bring back tourism and their economy? And because Emily Hovind is now part of the editorial board, she's going to come on around 1:30 tomorrow.
Cool.
And we'll talk about that and how people feel about San Francisco and what can be done and kind of the reaction to that editorial page op-ed, I guess. All right, so that's all coming up tomorrow. Click the thumbs up button before we go. I do want to give some thank yous really quickly. Think Forward with $20. Thank you so much. Our new Medorable Scott R right there. Thank you also for the $10 donation. Wes came in with a couple $5 super stickers. And of course, Harry started us off with $20 and a Kimikaze, Kim. That's your beverage right there.
I want one of those.
It's a shot. You got to do shots.
Nice.
Shots. All right, so we'll talk tomorrow. It's going to be a fun day. Till then, bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.